Welcome back to SITECH Intermountain Earthworks training videos. In this video today, we're going to show you how to set up an excavator on UTS, which is Universal Total Station. In your machine setup menu where you go dual G and S, you'll see that it says UTS. That means Universal Total Station, but we're going to use this target on the top. I'll show you more of that just in a second. We're going to use a SPS 930 total station that has a machine control option inside of it. And out here in our muddy mess, it's been snowing and raining out here, I've got a design built out here. So we're going to go through the process of showing you how to set it up on a UTS. Now you're probably asking, why would I set up an excavator on UTS? Well, one, there's always environments that are GPS deprived. There's always up against a big, huge pop-up building. If you got to go under an overhang, if you're working under a bridge on a freeway, or you're working under a canopy of trees, there is opportunities to set up an Earthworks machine on UTS and still be able to use the same design or infill design. You name it, it basically takes away the option from GPS to line of sight total station. So that's why we want to show you how to do this. I always want to train people and teach it the way that I wished I was taught. People spend a lot of money and companies spend a lot of money on GPS and technology, and my goal is to show people how to use it properly and get everything out of it. So when you are running UTS though, you're only going to be able to track one side. We've got the MT900 target up on the top here. You can pick either side. So you take your GPS receiver off on whatever side you're going to use it on. It doesn't matter if you put it on the right side here or the left side. It sits on the same exact cup. And you go ahead and tighten it down, clip it on. The only inherent problem that happens with total stations on excavators is most excavators are not set up with a dual band radio. Most excavators, at least here in Utah, are set up with a 900 megahertz, which is your communication to a GPS base station. You can see on this next gen, the actual radio is up underneath the cab. So up here at the top, we have two antennas. One antenna is for when it is switched to 900 megahertz. The other one is when it is switched to 2400 megahertz, which is the radio communication between the total station and the machine, and then line of sight tracking between the total station and the target there. You can put it on either side, like I said, but remember, however you're working at that point, keep in mind that the boom is going to eventually be in the way. That's why we're going to set the total station up in what's called machine control mode. And we're going to set it for a window. So what you need to do is know exactly where you're going to be working, and then we're going to set a window with the total station, which means it'll go into an auto search mode and look for you if it loses line of sight. Let's say a water truck comes by, a belly dump, even the boom on the machine, you go under a tree, whatever it is, it will go into a search mode, so you don't have to actually manually turn it to wherever you're working again, or to the machine. But why I'm saying this is you don't want it searching over here in an area that you're not even working, because then it's just wasting time trying to find you again. So we're going to set a window. So once again, this total station has been backsighted in. It knows where it's at on the job site. I'm not going to go through the backsighting in and setting up process of the total station in this video. I'll do that in other videos where we do site works and SPS gear. But for the machine control part of it, I do need to set that window, like I said. So from my TSC7 in the main menu, now that I'm hooked up to it, it knows where it's at. I'm going to go into the main menu and I'm going to go to project setup and I'm going to go down to machine control setup. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the window. So from this screen, you can see it shows a motor grader there, and it shows 4 different sets up around the outside. All you need to do is one high and one low, or one low and one high. You don't have to do all 4 of those. What that means is, let's say from the excavator, I'm not going to work any further back that way, and I'm not going to work any further around this way to the right side of me right here. So I can just manually grab the total station and I'm going to come and turn it, and I'm going to tip it up just a little bit, which is the top of its window, and it extends to the left right here. So I'm going to hit the top left. Then what I'm going to do without bumping the total station is I'm going to just gently turn it, And I'm going to come down and say, okay, my extents are not going to go any further than that, and I'm not going to need it to look any lower than what that is right there. If you don't set that window high enough or far enough, it will give you a warning. As soon as that's good, you can go ahead and hit next. We've done a top and a bottom. What I'm going to do is set a 35 up at the very top for network ID, and then I'm going to hit this plus button, and I'm going to put 35, change that one underneath the 35. This is just one of those numbers that I always remember when I'm setting up total stations. So 35 and then 35, 35. The reason why this is really important to remember that is this channel that you're setting right here is the channel that we're going to pick up in the machine. Just like a GPS base station, I'm out here on channel 10. This one's going to have two numbers, and I'm going to set it 35, 35. As soon as I hit next, it's going to let me do a finish and completion. As soon as I tap finish in the bottom right, it's going to automatically unconnect me, this radio to radio between the data collector and the total station. It's disconnected, and it's going to go into a mode on the main screen right here, which I will show you. It's going to switch between the channel, which is 5.5, which is the channel that I would hook up to if I was hooking up the total station to it again. But it's going to cycle through another one right there that says 3535, which means I can come back and hook up to that total station with my data collector on 5.5 anytime, or it's sitting here in standby mode at 3535. Now, at this point, you do not have to point the total station, the total station right at the machine, because it will go into a search mode. But what I like to do is at least get it close, just kind of eyeball it to where it's close to the machine. So now we will go set up the machine. All right, once we've actually got the total station set up and we're ready to go, we're going to go ahead and start cat grade inside the machine. While that's starting up, we'll go ahead and spin towards the total station. So this machine was just previously using dual GNS, so I want to show you the process of configuring your machine radio to 2400 megahertz. So you are going to get some warnings like this that come up, no problem, no problem. It thinks that it's looking for GPS receivers as you go into system status, none. But what we're going to do is inside your GNS or your machine setup, instead of doing GNS left or right or GNS sync dual, here is where you would put it to UTS or Universal Total Station left or right. So I've got that cup on the left side if you're sitting in the machine. As soon as we do that, it's got to configure the radio to 2400 megahertz. Don't be alarmed if this takes a little bit of time in your machine. They're all a little bit different. Well, once we've set that to UTS left, we can see that now you've got UTS instruments set up. So there's a black or a little blue box right here with an arrow. If we come in here, this is where we are going to set the radio channel for what the total station is set to. And you can see that I've already got channel 35, network 35, and then that target ID at 9 is the ID target for the MT900 on the top of the cab. Don't worry about changing that. So you'll notice at the top left right here where it says UTS tolerances, there's a maximum distance and a warning distance. So maximum distance is going to cut off any control from the total station beyond that, and the warning at 600. The auto search down here, that's toggled on, which means that as soon as it loses sight of me or something gets in the way of it or interrupted, I can tell it to auto search or not. I would always leave that on. But really quick, let me show you for that tolerance right there. There's an advanced button at the bottom here. If you hit advanced, it's going to take us into the web interface, but it's going to shortcut us right back to where we need to go if we needed to change those settings. 700 feet is about as far, if not a little further, than what I would normally take a total station, because then you're going to start having interference from heat waves. Too much distance, it'll start bouncing a little on you, and if the total station wasn't set up way good or properly, it's going to have a little bit of a climb or a fall basically on the plane. So in here, you can change that 700 to a smaller or bigger number. You can also toggle on restrict guidance beyond that or not. In here for position, that's going to be the 98 in between the two different total stations. If everything's good in here, you can go ahead and just come out of here. Once again, you don't need to go in there unless you need to change any of those settings. It'll automatically lock it. It'll take us back to cat grade. Once we're in here, we're going to go back into the machine setup, into that blue box, and once we tell it to look for that channel, we've got to make a radio communication in between us and the total station. The radio band is on 2400 megahertz. We'll hit next. You can see that it's sitting out there waiting for us. There's an icon right there that shows the excavator, and it shows the target. If you're looking from behind the machine, target's on the left side. If you have that on the wrong side, it's not going to hook up for you. The name right there where it says SITECH 1, if you have a total station that hasn't had the name changed inside of it, it's most likely going to be the serial number for that total station. It's telling me it's got 76% of battery power and it's waiting to start. So when I hit start right here, what it's going to do is it's going to start making a configuration, which means it's going to make that radio communication between us, finalize that, configure it, then the total station is going to go into a search mode. So I'm going to move forward just a little bit. And if you look out there, you can see that the total station is actually spinning around because it did a configuration, then it's going to go into a search mode. As you can see right there, it says searching. So it's going to do a quick search in the area that it was already facing. That's why, like I said earlier, I try to point it in the general direction so it's not in the wrong spot. If it doesn't find you in a quick search, it's going to go into a full search, which is that window that we set earlier. As soon as it has, it'll flip all the way around like that. Now it'll say tracking on the screen, and it'll ask you, do you want to use that as the guidance? Now, if I had multiple different total stations in here as a whole, in my cache in a whole list, you would be able to flip in between those two. So I'm going to tap, use that for guidance. Now we're good to go. It's also got a distance, which means I'm 56 feet away from that total station. So at the bottom here, you can see where it has a bench. We don't need to bench in right now necessarily. We can bench in from another screen, and I'll show you where we would bench in from another screen. But benching in is actually taking out any vertical error where you would normally do that with blade wear or anything else like that. So we need to bench into an elevation. So we're going to just hit done and go beyond that at this point. We'll go ahead and hit apply. Everything's good. Nothing's red. We got a yellow box. We're going to hit start. As soon as that total station is on us, you can see that there's a rotate body option. Because it is a single point, just like a single GPS receiver, it needs to have a little bit of an orientation. So all you need to do is just start rotating. It doesn't matter if you go fast or slow. As soon as that blue bar at the top comes across and it understands where we're at, you'll notice on the main screen here that it's kind of rotating actually around the bucket, the whole body. As soon as you rotate around a couple different times, boom, now we have landed on the job site. We know exactly where we're at. You can see I'm sitting inside the building footprint right here. We have cut fill to finish grade. I don't have an offset in there. We are good to go. And it doesn't matter if I spin fast or slow, or if I reach out and do half turns, quarter turns. It doesn't matter what I do. It actually does not lose me at this point. The only time that it's actually going to lose me and need me to rotate that body again is if I move the tracks, if I track forward or back. Just kind of showing you right here, it doesn't matter if I go in, out, slow, it doesn't lose me. But as soon as I move the tracks, that's when it wants another body rotate. So what I'm going to do is come up here and go past the total station, and I'm going to set up where we're going to bench in. Since I put my boom in the way of the total station and went past it, it's gone into a search mode again, which is no big deal. We'll go ahead and just spin around, and you'll see that it's in search mode again. Now that I've re-caught the total station and it's actually tracking on me, I do need to do a body rotate again. As soon as we've got that, now we can look at benching in to the elevation right here that I've got. I've got a couple here. I've got one at the top of this and at the bottom of this. So the one down here at the bottom, I'm going to set down on it, and I'm going to set my red caret on the right side. We're going to look at it. It's 41.96.44. So you can see I'm bouncing between 40 and 41. What we want to do is bench in. So if we touch and hold on the shovel with the gear, or just go in here, there's a bench UTS. In here, it's telling me the current slope of that bucket. I may have to change that a little bit, but it's giving me an attachment tip elevation, and it's giving me an A for the other one for this tilt rotator. What I want to do is put this on the right side, because that's what I'm benching into, is the right side. And I'm going to key in that elevation. I'm going to say 41.96.44. It won't let me put in the thousands, so we'll just go 44. And then we'll hit bench in the bottom right. This would just be like if you were doing an excavator or anything, or excuse me, a grader or a dozer. So now that we've benched in, you can see I've got 41.96.44 on that. And that's what that elevation is at the very bottom right there. So we know we're hitting the right elevation, we're benched in, we're good to go. So we'll go ahead and come out here and show you a couple different options of what it looks like when you lose the tracking. And I want to, once again, what it looks like through the moving the body and rotating it to gain control again. Once you get out here, you can see that the machine still actually froze. It thinks that it's back there a little ways. You've got to rotate the body again so it understands where it's at. Once we've got a full body rotate and it understands where it's at, there's actually a really good example of what's going to happen here. I've got a guy in an excavator coming by. What's going to happen when he comes by is it's going to lose me. But he's not going fast enough that it's actually going to stay bleeped in. It's going to actually cut out on us. So we'll go ahead and let him swing by. I'll show you, that's an example of another machine getting in the way, or a dozer, or a belly dump, or a water truck, or whatever it may be. See where it says target lost, searching? It's going to stay in the same area and do a quick search. Once it's found us, as long as I don't move the tracks, you can see that everything works the exact same as it would if I was running GPS. Short little passes don't affect it. It's a line of sight issue. So as you saw that excavator that came through there really, really slow and cut me off, the slow, meaning, when I say slow, meaning that it actually cut me off for quite a little while, that's where it struggles. But let me show you this. If I just go through it really quick with the boom and the stick, it lost me for a sec, but it comes right back in. So it does kind of a quick search. That's why placement of your total station and what side you put the target on based on the work you're doing is the most crucial part of it. So now with your icons on the screen though, with that one that changed at the bottom right there, if you touch and hold, go back into the total station, if you hit the three buttons right there, you can stop the tracking from that total station. You can do a search or hit the diagnostics on it. If you had other ones down here in the queue, you would be able to switch between them and use them as guidance. So UTS settings takes you back into the settings for the advanced. The other thing is there's a couple different things. Like I showed you the shovel with the gear inside here. You've got a task that changed. Now we've got bench UTS and UTS management right here, which is the same thing the shortcut is on the main screen. So at the very bottom of your screen, you can configure the bottom ribbon to actually show some different things now that you're in UTS mode. So you can come down here and you can see that there's the reach left, there's the transition offset vertical between them. I've got UTS distance turned on, so I know exactly how far away it is from where I'm at. Just helps me kind of keep an eye at the very bottom here. If I was on a job site where I was getting really far from that total station, obviously it's going to work to within 700 feet, but at least I can keep an eye on that. So you can configure those, see that, and then in your machine setup is where you would go back and switch back and forth between it. But there again, it doesn't matter how fast you spin, what you do here. It's the moment that you actually move the tracks that it wants you to do a body rotate. So, and we were back on. So it is a little bit temperamental. I understand that GPS is out in the open like this, your better option. I just here at SITECH Intermountain wanted to show you the UTS option, just so you know. You can use it, like I said earlier, under trees, next to buildings, or let's say you don't have a base station that day, but you've got a total station. There's options at this point, and it's going to give you more better numbers in between, like the 60 right here, where it's 41, 97, 62. Now you've got the hundreds in between instead of a bouncing 500s. So hopefully some of this helped and made sense. Appreciate you watching this SITECH Intermountain Earthworks training video on using a UTS total station on a next-gen Earthworks excavator.